Good afternoon, everyone. This is Soumya Pancholi. My research title, Social Identity Recognition and Redistribution in Health Service Delivery, was conducted between October 2019 and May 2020 in Ajmer district of Rajasthan. The main idea behind this research was the fact that dominant discussions in India when it comes to health and nutrition services often overemphasize on the more visible issues in access and utilization, such as scarce resources, unequal spending, poor coverage, bad infrastructure, human resource shortage, etc. However, not enough attention has been given to questions of discrimination and exclusion due to one's social identity and social belongingness. Now, for understanding health service delivery in rural Rajasthan, the focus of my study was on the ICDS program instituted in the year 1975, and till date it remains the largest program for provision of basic health and nutrition services at the community level. Now, the larger aim of this program was to reduce inequality and bring in social justice in the society through equal opportunities. However, despite universalization, ICDS still remains out of reach for a vast majority of children and women, especially from the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. For example, data from NFHS 4 suggest that scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, along with religious minorities, fall back on almost all indicators of health and nutrition. For example, percentage of institutional deliveries among the forward castes stood at 83%. It was only 78% among the SCs and merely 68% for the STs. Similarly, nearly all types of early childhood mortality is greater among these social groups. Now, this research was an attempt to understand the role of social identity in defining the contours of health service delivery in India. The research derives its theoretical underpinning from the theory of group differentiated citizenship, which recognizes that the formal principle of equality and universality ignored the historical prejudices against certain social groups, and it does not guarantee equality of voice or participation. Now, my aim here was to learn about the experiences, perceptions, and attitudes of people, not just as service providers and beneficiaries, but as individuals embedded in different communities as a part of the larger social group. The research was planned as a qualitative study meant to explore the meaning individuals or communities ascribe to social exclusion. It was an attempt to study how their experiences within a hierarchical social setting shapes their perception of a service delivery. So now Sane in the year 2000 argued that there are two ways in which social exclusion may be applied in the provision of service delivery. On the one hand, a scheduled caste person may experience a complete exclusion from access to a public service, while on the other hand, access may be there but with differential treatment in the way in which services are being delivered. This he termed as unfavorable inclusion. Now here also there were instances to show that there was unfavorable inclusion of women and children from scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, be it selective dissemination of information, be it poor communication, be it poor quality of care, denial of rights, etc. All these were the distributive challenges that the ICDS program confronts up till today. Now, the findings suggest that in a society that is organized hierarchically, there is a prevalence of not just economic or material deprivation, but also social and cultural injustices which manifest in everyday transactions. For example, in Bharai, the Anganwadi worker belonged to a very powerful Savarna family. She exercised considerable influence over village politics, and the women from scheduled castes and scheduled tribes would complain that they were asked to do menial works in exchange for the ICDS services. For example, whitewash her house, or take care of the field, or do embroidery on her clothes, etc. Similarly, children had to bring their own utensils, wash it themselves, and were not even allowed to sit on the carpet as other children. Pregnant and lactating women complained of not receiving THR or supplementary nutrition from the Anganwadi worker, and that she would never ever visit their house. Now, another very significant but often overlooked aspect of exclusion in everyday transaction would be the way in which Anganwadi worker would address these women and children. Never by their first name, but always through their caste identity and marital status. Example, Valmiki ki bahu, or calling somebody Bhangan, or calling somebody Bhil ki chori. All this is very dehumanizing to the extent that the women from the lower caste and children from the lower caste are not even deserving of any identity outside their caste and marital status. Finally, to conclude, the findings from this research point to the fact that policy problems in India are not managerial problems alone, but rather shaped and influenced by social realities and social relations. Hence, public policies in India, both in its content and merit, need to mirror the realities of the people, understand the social context, and address the social barriers to inclusion and access that the marginalized groups in India, especially the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, experience up until today. Finally, I'd like to thank all of you for your time and patience, and I'd really appreciate if you could get back to me with any questions that you might have and your feedback. Thank you so much.